Hello everyone, I welcome you all to Doubt Forum. Today we are going to take another question on physics. The question is, as shown in the figure, a bob of mass m is tied by a massless string whose other end portion is wound on a flywheel of radius r and mass m. When released from the rest, the bob starts falling vertically. When it has covered a distance of h, the angular speed of the wheel is to be calculated. So here, this is a disc which is fixed with the wall, only it can rotate. And there is a string which is wound in this disc, and a bob of mass m is attached. The mass of the disc is m and its radius is r. So initially the bob is at rest and then it is released. When it is released, it will fall, and when it has fallen by a distance of h, we can understand after falling for a distance h, the bob which was initially at rest will attain some speed, some velocity. Also the string will also be moving, and because the string is attached with the disc, so the disc would also start rotating. So we have to calculate the angular speed of the disc when the bob is at position B. Suppose we call it position B and initially it was position A. So in this question we would be using certain concepts. There is a very simple way. You can use law of conservation of mechanical energy, or you can use work energy theorem and simply put values and solve it. But here in Doubt Forum, we explain every concept involved in the question so that you are not able to solve only this question, but any question of similar nature that you face. So the following concepts would be used here. First, we will discuss linear motion versus angular motion. Second thing we will discuss is mechanical energy. Mechanical energy, or we can say law of conservation of mechanical energy. And the third thing is massless string. In the question it is given that the string is massless. So we would understand its significance. What is the significance if it is massless, and what would happen if it were not massless? First, let us discuss linear versus angular speed. So linear versus angular speed. In linear motion, a body moves along a straight line or along a random line, but it moves in only one direction at a time. In rotational motion, the body rotates about an axis. So we can see the bob would be falling down. So it would be a linear motion. It would be falling towards earth. Whereas the disc, which is fixed with the wall, can only rotate. So it will have rotational energy or rotational motion. So in linear motion, there is a very simple concept of speed or velocity. So we call it linear speed or linear velocity. In angular motion, there is a concept called angular speed. We denote it by omega. Omega. This is lowercase Greek letter omega. Uppercase letter is like this, ohm, but angular speed is denoted by omega. So the concept of linear velocity is taken over by the concept of angular velocity, which is the angle covered per second. When a body is rotating, the amount of angle it rotates by per second is called its angular speed or angular velocity. Similarly, in linear motion, a very simple concept is mass. Mass, this becomes moment of inertia, I. In angular speed, the angular equivalent of mass becomes I, moment of inertia. Similarly, in linear motion, kinetic energy of a body is half mv square. M is mass, v is velocity. In angular motion, the rotational kinetic energy, this is linear kinetic energy. So the linear kinetic energy becomes rotational kinetic energy, and its formula becomes half, mass becomes I, v becomes omega. Half moment of inertia multiplied by square of angular velocity. So linear velocity becomes angular velocity, mass becomes moment of inertia. So this way we can calculate angular or we can say rotational kinetic energy. Now we would also try to learn a little bit about I, moment of inertia. In one of our video, detailed explanation of moment of inertia, radius of gyration and associated concepts has been given. The link is provided in the description, so you can refer that video for detailed explanation on this topic. But briefly, I would explain about moment of inertia. So suppose this is an axis and there are two particles, M1, M2. M1 is at a distance of R1, M2 is at a distance of R2. Similarly, there is another particle, M3. And all these three particles make one body. So suppose one body is made up of three particles, M1, M2, M3. M1 is at a distance of R1 from the axis, M2 at a distance of R2, and M3 at a distance of R3 from the axis. So the moment of inertia I about this axis would be second moment of mass. You know, moment of any physical quantity is that physical quantity multiplied by its perpendicular distance from the axis. So moment of force is force multiplied by R, or perpendicular distance from the axis. Similarly, moment of mass would be mr, only first moment. But moment of inertia is second moment of mass. So mr square. So this would become mr square. So there are three particles. So m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square. So the sum of second moment of masses of all the individual particles in this body would be equal to moment of inertia of this whole body. In practical terms, it is not possible to calculate second moment of mass of each particle, because every body is made up of infinite number of particles. So you cannot know the distance of each and every particle, and you cannot sum them up, and you cannot calculate. So there is integration and various conventional method using which you can find out the standard formula for moment of inertia of symmetrical bodies. For example, a rod of length L, the moment of inertia of this rod about an axis perpendicular at the center of the passing through the center of this cylindrical rod and perpendicular to it would be ml square upon 12. The derivation of this formula has also been shown in the link which I was talking about. You can refer the description and go to that video. Similarly, the moment of inertia of a disk, of a circular disk of mass m and radius r about an axis passing through the center of this disk and perpendicular to this disk would be mr square upon 2. So these are the standard formulae which you have to always memorize for a standard shape. So we have explained linear motion versus angular motion. The second concept we are going to use is mechanical energy and its conservation. So mechanical energy we know is nothing but sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. Kinetic energy is the energy in a body by virtue of its motion. If a body is moving, it would have some kinetic energy. So kinetic energy in a linear motion would be half times mv square. Or in an angular motion, it would be half I omega square, as explained earlier. Potential energy is the energy in a body by virtue of its position. If a body is at a particular height, gravitational force is acting on the body, and when it is released, it would fall, and it has some ability to do work, and ability to do work is called energy. So potential energy or gravitational, more precisely gravitational potential energy, depends on the mass, acceleration due to gravity, and the height of the object from the Earth's surface. So here we would be using an important law called law of conservation of mechanical energy, which states that when the forces acting on a system are conservative forces, the total mechanical energy of the system is conserved. So when the system is interacting, maybe released, the bob is released from its position, it falls. So before it was allowed to fall, it would have some total mechanical energy. After it has fallen to certain height, h in this case, the total mechanical energy of the system would still be constant, would still be the same. System here is nothing but bob, string, and the disc. There are three components of the system: bob, string, and the disc. So we will calculate the total mechanical energy of each component of the system before the bob was allowed to fall and after the bob has fallen to a height of h. Now, so we have learned total mechanical energy would be kinetic energy and potential energy. Next important thing which has been mentioned is the string is massless. What is the significance of it? The significance of it is when we would be calculating the total mechanical energy of the system when the bob was at position A, we will have to calculate the kinetic and potential energy for each of the three components: bob, string, and disc. But since the string is massless, its mass is 0, so its potential energy mgh would be 0. Similarly, its kinetic energy, which is half mv square, m being 0, the kinetic energy of the string would be 0. So we can simply disregard this string. We don't need to take into account the string and its related energy. So for this system, we would be only considering on bob and the disc and nothing else. So this would simplify our problem. So this is the significance of the string being massless. So let us calculate the total mechanical energy of the system when the bob was at position A at rest. So total mechanical energy of the system would be kinetic energy of the system and potential energy of the system. So kinetic energy of the system means kinetic energy of the bob plus kinetic energy of the disc. Potential energy of the system means potential energy of the bob and potential energy of the disc. Kinetic energy of the bob is 0 because bob was initially at rest. Similarly, kinetic energy of the disc would also be 0 because the disc was initially not rotating, was at rest. Potential energy of the bob when the bob was at position A, we have assumed, let us, the height of, because h is the height by which the bob has fallen. It is not the height from the ground level. So let us assume initially the bob was at a height of h1 from ground level. After it has fallen by h, its height is h2 from the ground. So at position A, mgh1 was the potential energy of the bob, and potential energy of the disk you can simply disregard. Why? Because the disk is not changing its position. So whatever potential energy it had initially, it would still be the same after the bob has fallen. So you can simply disregard it, or you can also take it into account and it would cancel out because it would be there in the left side and right side as well. So let us not disregard here. We assume that the disk was at a height of capital H from ground level. So potential energy of the bob would be mgh1 plus potential energy of the disk would be mg capital H. After the bob has fallen by a distance of h and it reaches position B, the total mechanical energy of the system we will calculate in the same way: kinetic energy of the bob plus kinetic energy of the disk, potential energy of the bob and potential energy of the disk. Kinetic energy of the bob would be half mv square. We assume after it has fallen to B, it would attain a velocity of v. Initially it was at rest, but after reaching B, it would have some velocity v. So half mv square. Kinetic energy after the bob has fallen, you can see the string would be also falling at the same speed, and because the string is wound over this disk, so the disk would start rotating. So it would have some rotational speed or angular speed. We call it omega. So kinetic energy of the bob is half mv square, and kinetic energy of the disk would be rotational kinetic energy, which would be half I omega square, plus potential energy of the bob at position B would be mgh2. We have assumed it is at a height of h2 from ground, mgh2, plus potential energy of the disk would be mg capital H. So that is why I was saying we can disregard this, because it is here in the initial as well as final calculation. So it will cancel out, but we have not ignored it, we have simply mentioned it, mgh. Let us simplify. Now we have two, velocity and angular velocity, so we can convert them. There is a simple formula, relationship between linear speed or velocity and angular speed or velocity. V is equal to r omega. R is the radius of the body. Since the string is attached to the bob, so when the bob is moving at a speed of v, the string is also falling at the same speed. So any point P1 or P2 or P3 on the string would also be moving with the same linear speed of v as the bob. Now you can see P2, P3, these are the points, common points on the disk as well as the string, and we assume that there is no slippage between disk and string. So the particles of the disk which are located on the outer periphery of the disk, that is at the contact point of the string, they would also be moving at the same linear velocity of v as the string or as the bob. So v is equal to r omega. So angular speed of disk and linear speed of the outermost particle of the disk would be related with v is equal to r omega. So in this expression we have to calculate angular speed of the disk. So we would replace v, linear speed, as r omega, and we would make all the speeds as omega. So half m r square omega square plus half m I. So as explained earlier, the moment of inertia of the disk would be mr square upon 2. So half mr square upon 2 omega square plus mgh2 plus mg capital H. Now we would equate, because law of conservation of mechanical energy says the initial total mechanical energy would be the same as final total mechanical energy. Also, law of conservation of mechanical energy has been explained in detail in one of our earlier videos, the link to which is also given in the description. There you can also review the concept that mechanical energy is conserved when the forces acting on the system are only conservative forces. Conservative forces are the forces work done by which depend only on the initial and final position of the system and not on the path taken. Here in this system, the force that is acting is gravitational force, and gravitational force is one such category of conservative force. So since the conservative force is only acting, so the law of conservation of mechanical energy would apply here. So we can equate the total mechanical energy before or at point A equal to total mechanical energy at point B. So we would be getting mgh1 plus mg capital H is equal to half mr square omega square plus 1 by 4 mr square omega square plus mgh2 plus mg capital H. Mg capital H, mg capital H cancel out. mgh2 we take to the left side, mgh1 minus h2. We simplify this, mr square omega square 1 by 2 plus 1 by 4. h1 minus h2 is h. It is the height by which the bob has fallen. h1 initial height, h2 final height. The difference between the two heights is h. So this becomes mg small h, mr square omega square 3 by 4. We simplify, we get omega square is equal to 4 by 3 gh upon r square. We further simplify, we get omega is equal to 1 over r square root of 4 gh upon 3. So which is the same as option number 3 of the question. So option number 3 is correct. So let us quickly review whatever we have discussed so far. We have discussed the concept of linear versus angular motion, mechanical energy and its conservation, and the significance of a string being massless in this question. In the linear motion, we have the concept of linear speed or velocity, whereas in the angular motion, we have the concept of angular speed or velocity, which is nothing but the angle covered or the amount of rotation covered by a body per second. It is denoted by lowercase Greek letter omega. In the concept of mass in linear motion, its equivalent in angular motion is moment of inertia. Moment of inertia is defined as the second moment of mass about any axis. Concept of kinetic energy is taken over by the concept of angular kinetic energy or rotational kinetic energy. In rotational motion, half m becomes I, v becomes omega. Briefly, we discussed moment of inertia. It has also been explained in another video, the link to which is given in the description. Moment of inertia of a body consisting of three particles m1, m2, m3 located at a distance of r1, r2 and r3 from the axis would be the second moment of mass for each of these particles and the sum of the ten. m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square. But in practice, in practical terms, every body consists of infinite number of particles. We cannot calculate the second moment of mass for each particle and by assuming their distance. So we use the technique of integration. We take a very small portion of the body and we calculate its moment, and then we integrate it with proper limits, and we can derive the formula for standard symmetrical shapes, which I have also derived this for a cylinder. I have derived in that video which I have referred. So for a cylinder of length L or a rod of length L, the moment of inertia about an axis passing through the center and perpendicular to the rod would be ml square upon 12. For the disc, it would be I is equal to mr square upon 2. Now mechanical energy is kinetic energy and potential energy. These two energies are called mechanical energy. Kinetic energy is because of motion or velocity, which is the formula for which is half mv square. Potential energy is the energy in a body because of its particular position. So the formula is mgh, h being the height, and this particular is called gravitational potential energy. Law of conservation of mechanical energy says when the forces acting on a system are conservative forces, the total mechanical energy of the system remains conserved or constant. So before that we also discussed the relationship between velocity and angular velocity. V is equal to r omega. So you multiply the rotational or angular speed with radius, you can find out the linear speed of that particular particle located at a radius of r from the axis. So now we apply, and also we discuss why the string was massless. The string is massless, so while calculating the mechanical energy of the system, we can ignore string. We can calculate bob and disk. Potential and kinetic energies for bob as well as disk, we can disregard the same for string because the string is massless. So m is 0, so string's kinetic energy and potential energy would be 0. Initially we calculate when the bob was at position A, mechanical energy of the system would be kinetic energy of the bob, which is 0 because bob is at rest, plus kinetic energy of the disk, which is also 0 because the disk is at rest, plus potential energy of the bob, which is mg h1, h1 being the height from ground level at initial position, plus mg capital H being the height of the disk. So this is the disk potential energy of the disk. We can also disregard it because H would never be changing, the disk is fixed, but still we have taken it here. It would automatically cancel out when we would be solving the equation. After the bob has fallen to point B, it would attain a velocity of V. We can calculate the total mechanical energy of the system after the bob is reaching point B. Kinetic energy of the bob would be half m v square. Kinetic energy of the disk would be rotational kinetic energy, which would be half I omega square. Potential energy of the bob would be mgh2. Now it is at a height of h2 from ground. Plus potential energy of the disk would be mgh capital H. We have to calculate omega actually, the velocity, angular velocity of the disk. So we can replace linear velocity with r omega, and we reach this expression half mr square omega square plus half mr square and etc. And also we discussed, because v is the velocity of the bob, so this would be the same for string as well, because the string is tied to the bob, it is in tension, there is no slackness. So any point in the string P1, P2, P3 would be moving with the same speed as bob, which is v. Since P2 and P3 are the contact point between string and the disk, so the speed of P3 and P2 would be the same, whether it is a string or the disk. So the particles on the outermost periphery of the disk would also have linear speed of v. That is why with this v we can calculate omega for the disk, because v is also the velocity of the particles. Outermost particle located at a radius of r for the disk, they are moving at velocity v. So now we will equate the total mechanical energy at point A is equal to total mechanical energy at point B. We can simplify the equation. H1 minus H2 is the H by which the bob has fallen. This way we can calculate omega is equal to 1 over r square root of 4gh upon 3, which is the same as option D of the question. Thank you.